Walk with me, love. Walk with me, love. All alone, this tear's journey. Won't you walk with me? Walk with me, love. Walk with me. All alone, this tear's journey. Won't you walk with me?
I love to be surrounded by family and friends. How ALS has affected my life. I can no longer talk, but I communicate through my eyes, laughter, facial expression, and my computer. I can no longer walk, but I get around on a motorized wheelchair and a Hoyer lift. While I am fed through a peg tube, I never experience hunger or thirst. I take great pleasure in seeing my family indulge. I can no longer completely breathe on my own, but the ventilator provides the 12 breaths per minute I need to survive. Although my quality of life has changed, I still have feelings and emotions. I love to smile, laugh, and joke. Like all of us, I will continue to survive until God calls me home.
This picture of me and my dad just over the years, from like a baby to my prom to I think this picture right here was the last time he went out to eat. We were at Red Lobster.
I would like people to know that this is the worst disease ever. I would not wish this disease on my worst enemy. My mind is totally intact. I am aware of all my surroundings.
Our hopes is that we can do something, anything, to promote ALS awareness, to raise money, to find a cure for this disease. Willie is more than willing to do his part in whatever he can do, and we just want to say thank you for allowing us to be a part of this wonderful organization.
My ALS journey started on September 27th, 1997. I was a graduate student living a dream, pursuing a PhD in organic chemistry at Notre Dame, something I'd wanted to do my whole life. And my dad called me and said, "You have to come home. We're having a birthday party for your mom." She was turning 48. And I remember thinking I was very busy and it was not the time to be making a trip home. And I remember saying to him, "Dad, why can't we wait 2 years and do it when she's 50? And he was adamant that I come home, and what he knew that I didn't was that in July my mother had been diagnosed with bulbar onset ALS.
I am connected to the ALS Association because my husband Alex was diagnosed in 2013 with ALS. Alex and I were married 38 years. They were great. We have two wonderful children. Both are married, and we also have 2 grandchildren. That was one of the toughest parts, that Alex couldn't get down on the ground and play with his granddaughter. We always called him the most interesting man because he traveled all over with work, and he was just a good friend and confidential friend to so many. He was the light of the room. Alex Massey was always fun. And so that part is always deep in our heart. And we actively use the ALS Association to every advantage we possibly could. They were, and still are, an amazing group of people that supported us with home care, to know where we turn to for patient advocacy, support groups for both the patient and for the caregiver, myself, and my children. And then they even have a grief group that I followed up with afterwards, along with the locker that loans out all kinds of equipment. We just used everything. They were amazing.
Alex
loved working outside. He could work out in the yard for like 8 hours straight, but his most favorite was his fish pond, where he would whistle to have the fish come up and eat. And now this is not the size of the fish he caught, but this was one where he was up in Canada on a business trip, well, kind of a business trip, and they were fishing. And he was so proud of this huge salmon he caught, and he brought it home with him so that we could all enjoy. I think this is a salmon. It could be a halibut. So this is a book of Alex's 60th birthday, put on by Deb and Scott Kramer. And it was bigger than our wedding. It was held in their garage that was bigger than anything. And we had a party that he just enjoyed every minute. It was his work friends, our family, our granddaughter, friends from church. There was a DJ, and this is our daughter Jessica, who had her own surprise party for him in Arizona when he turned 60. And they all just had such a great relationship. And then to top it off, there were fireworks at the end of the night, only for Alex Massey, the most interesting man. I miss him. That's all.
We've been married almost 50 years, and we've lived all over the United States. None of that would have been possible without the support of my wife. And she's meant everything to me. And now, in the manner in which she's handling this awful disease, ALS, I add one other accolade to a long list of accolades, which begins with wife and mother and lover and athlete, and that is she's my hero as well. That was only taken, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. And Cindy actually designed that front door and had it made. The hinges are from, she found out in Idaho, and then she had the door painted like a door that we saw in the village that her grandparents were married in Sicily. But this house we saw was under renovation when we came back to visit my parents, and we bought it when they were about half through the renovation so that Cindy could put her thumbprint all over it. So everything that you see here, from the floor and the ceiling and the color scheme, as well as the furniture and the accessories, are all a reflection of my wife's taste and talent. And I just try not to get in her way.
So ALS is characterized by the dying of neurons, the things that make our fingers move and our lips talk and our tongue move and that control our diaphragm. They die. We don't really know why. And so the brain is saying, move your fingers, and your fingers are sitting there. And it's progressive. So in my mother's case, it started with her speech and swallowing, bulbar onset. And then it gradually moved to her legs, and she needed a wheelchair. She was able to hold onto her hands for quite a while. So she was still able to type, and through hospice, she learned a late in life talent of painting. And no one left our house without one of her watercolors.
This is Cindy talking now. I would like people to know that God provides us what we need on this journey, both physically and spiritually. In my journey, I was inspired to write the lyrics to a song, the ALS Odyssey Anthem. Our amazing director of the Northern Ohio ALS Association, Mary Wheelock, made my journey more fulfilling when she managed to have the anthem heard at the National ALS Conference in Atlanta last year. She became my dream maker. The vocalist, Mary Jo O'Regan, and her husband and composer of the anthem, Michael O'Regan, were there to receive a standing ovation. The song accomplished what I had hoped, giving hope for a cure and inspiring the ALS community.
Mom, what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want us to remember you? And she didn't hesitate. She typed as fast as her ALS hands could type. I don't want the fight to defeat ALS to end with me. And we talked about how the ALS Association had been so important to us, and she said, they need us. You need to continue to help them in my memory. And I really took that to heart and became a volunteer, got involved in the walks, and brought my passion and my profession together as the executive director.
My husband, Joe, makes a point of not missing any of the caregiver meetings. You know, it's just such a wonderful opportunity to welcome in new patients, families, and help them with, help each other, really. I think it's very encouraging for him to know that others are going through similar difficulties.
My wife was diagnosed with ALS in 2011, and probably within the first 2 weeks we had our first contact with the ALS Association at the clinic, and they've been a part of our life ever since. We used probably most of their services. We used the loan closet, so her wheelchairs all came from the ALS. We had a Hoyer lift. We had various pieces of equipment. As the disease progressed, there was just a constant change of things that were needed, and we used a lot of it.
Cough assist, suctions, even
the BiPAP machine.
BiPAP machine, 2 of them, maybe. Just a lot of equipment. We used a lot of equipment. We went to all their educational support group meetings. We went to their caregiver support group meetings. My mom and dad initially went together, and then when my mom could no longer get out of the house, I went with my dad to support him.
We also used the respite program that they had, so I had cleaning people came in once a month, and that was helpful.
Our Strikeout ALS Gala started in 1998 by the JaGrandis family, and it is that time that we all come together and have a really fun party and remember those who are fighting ALS and doing what we can to make their lives as best as possible while we search for the cure. The chapter holds 4 Walk to Defeat ALS events a year in Cleveland, Akron, Toledo, and Tiffin, and they take place starting in August and run through the end of September, beginning of October. And that's where it's first and foremost a community. That's where you find all my ALS people and those who are united in the fight to defeat ALS. It is a very powerful experience to walk in and see thousands of people who understand and want to rid the world of ALS.
The walk in 2012 or 13 was the last time she left the house. And then she never left home again. She went to the walk, and it was awesome to all be there. It was really unifying, and then that was her last time out. She never left home again.
She was comfortable at home.
Yeah.
It made her nervous, the thought of even trying the little humps, the loops, the things you had to do just to get out the door. It scared the heck out of her, and she just preferred being home. She wanted to be home, and she was.
Yeah, the paratransit ride, she gripped so tight, trying to keep her body, because you lose control of your body, that she felt like she lost functionality in her hand, and she just was never comfortable leaving again. So that's why I sent you a picture, and it's of the back of Mom and Dad, and they're walking away, and that was it. That was her farewell tour to outdoors, and I love that picture because it was, she fought really hard to go out that day, and it was really special to be. If she was going to have one final journey out, I think being for a walk to defeat ALS was a pretty darn good way to go.
Horribly hard.
So you didn't do them initially?
Well, I didn't. Yeah, those were ones I said, heck no.
There's the kids doing puzzles.
Yeah.
These are all the puzzles that. This one was so frustrating. We finally said forget it, and we just took a picture with the horses. Let the rest of it go. But it was
you literally did hundreds and hundreds of puzzles over time.
It hurts to not have her, but man, We just had so much fun. A lot of stress too.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But you remember the fun and you let some of the hard go. So it's hard to believe. You try and remember how in the world did we do all those things that we did. But
You do it because you don't have a choice. You have to just, one moment to the next, and you figure it out. And a lot of phone calls to ALS trying to...
yeah. What do we do now?
Yeah.
Lisa was, she's a lifesaver.
Yeah.
They made such a big difference.
So.
Really did.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This puzzle we ended up, it's the last puzzle she worked on for Christmas. Like a week earlier, we had gotten it from my godchild. They took a photo from our wedding album and blew it up and made a puzzle out of it. So we had finished another puzzle that I'll show you in a minute. That was the last puzzle we finished, and it was like 10 o'clock at night the day before she was going to have a procedure done that would put an end to everything, I guess. And but she said, let's start the next puzzle. So we started this one, and by the time the evening was done, we had just our faces is what we were able to get done. And Jackie, you kind of go over the...
Yeah, so the way things kind of went down with Mom is she was just exhausted, and her body was giving out, and her BiPAP machine was no longer giving her the relief that she needed. And so we worked with the ALS Association, and we worked with our hospice team, and we talked about the different options she had, and they said she could do a tracheotomy to get relief, or she could continue on the BiPAP, but no other BiPAPs or vent type machines would give her the relief she was looking for. And then they gave her a final option, which was a palliative sedation, which would allow her to go to sleep, and they would remove her BiPAP machine, which was sustaining her life, and allow her to pass. So for the week before Christmas, we knew that this was coming and this was in the works. And so the day before, as my dad has said, that we did puzzles throughout her whole illness. It was a huge therapeutic value for her. And the day before, we were working on a Christmas tree puzzle, and we had everybody over for dinner, and there was like 15 of us, and we all had dinner. I always, this is in my mind, but I always think of the Last Supper with Jesus and how he celebrated with his disciples, and he surrounded himself with the loved ones that he had. And when I think of that night, that was what we had. She knew she was going to die. She knew she was, going to go through that the next day. And we surrounded ourselves with family and with love. We had a meal together. We puzzled together. Yeah. We finished a Christmas tree puzzle around 6 o'clock at night. And then, as Dad said, we started this final puzzle of Mom and Dad together that they got as a gift for Christmas. And we got, just the faces done. And we worked and we laughed and we told stories. And then finally at midnight or 12:30, we were just exhausted. And so there was 5 of us staying here. We went to bed, and we woke up the next morning and we prayed together as a group, and then we puzzled and we laughed, and we waited for the hospice team to get there about 11:30 in the morning. And the last thing she did before she went into the bed, when she was in her chair, was working on this puzzle, and us surrounding her as a family. And then we did the palliative sedation. We said prayers, and we sang music, and we sang songs, and we prayed together, and we watched her suffering end. And it was, as hard as it was so beautiful. We walked her to the gates of heaven, and she would say to us, Jackie, when I get to heaven, they're going to release pink balloons and announce it's a girl. And she said, dying isn't special to me. It's not unique to me. Everybody has to go through it, and I know you guys are going to be okay. And she always compared going to heaven like walking through a veil, and that, she was going to get to the end and she was going to walk. She compared it to like a camping net where the magnets would come together, and she's like, all I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through it, and the magnets are going to open, and my eyes are going to be open, and then the magnets will close behind us. And I really do feel when you're with your loved one at the end, that you walk into the gates of heaven and you get a little glimpse of God's beauty, even in the hardship, if you allow your heart to be open to that. And that was what we experienced. It was one of the most beautiful, life-altering experiences. And, you know, my life will never be the same. It just has changed me forever. It was beautiful.
We knew that her time was coming, and she said, you know, we started a puzzle, 250-piece puzzle, pretty simple, but it didn't mean anything. And we got the edge put together, and she said, you know what, take that puzzle down, I want that Christmas tree. And so it's like, okay, here we go. And so we started putting this puzzle together, and it's the last one we completed. We got through 999 pieces only to discover there was one last piece that was missing, which kind of seemed apropos for, with the hundreds of puzzles that we had done over the past few years, you know, that there's a piece missing, you know, and Michelle's missing, so that's our piece missing.
I need you, other patients need you, caregivers and struggling families need your support.
It's devastating. Be gentle with yourself. Reach out for support. Find your spiritual base, because it helps through the disease and after the disease has taken your loved one. And just enjoy every moment that you can. And even on the best days, enjoy it. And even on the worst days, find those things that you're grateful for.
I regret every day that I don't get to know our families before they had ALS. But I also don't want anyone I know to ever be diagnosed. So I have to live with the fact that I don't know these people before they have ALS, and they are such incredible inspirations, just like my mom.
There's so much goodness in this world, and much of it is being given to those of us who have ALS by the staff from the ALS Association. With grateful hearts, we will cross this goal line together. Hallelujah.
My 25th birthday, it was at midnight, and I went in the room, and he was trying to tell me he did tell me happy birthday, and then we asked him to sing it, but at that point it was really hard for him to talk. So luckily he was able to get the whole song out for my 25th birthday, and I really appreciated it.
January 16th, 2016. Happy birthday to our daughter, Whitney Marie Shepard.
I love you too. Thank you.
Love you, Whitney.
Love you too.
All is well, trust in me. The storm will change to calming sea. In the morning's light, there will be beauty. The oldest steps, too much to bear. So seated, I began my prayer, and still my lips proclaimed, Alleluia. Be still and know that I am God. The psalm assumes I'll beat the odds. I trust there'll be a cure. Hallelujah. We now anticipate the day when ALS will go away, and all will sing his praises. Hallelujah. The joy as we accept his plan.